Welcome to Revelation Unraveled. I'm your host, William Tapley, also known as the Third Eagle of the Apocalypse and the co-prophet of these end times. Now first I want to point out that I do have a slight scrape on my forehead before I get 1,000 comments about it. And that's because I was walking around my sculpture garden last night in the moonlight and I tripped over a log which I forgot was there. And I don't want anyone telling me that that is the head wound of the Antichrist. Please don't tell me that. Now yesterday, to get down to the business of this video, was the second week anniversary of the publication of the Filial correction as published by 62 Catholic Bible scholars, in which they said that Pope Francis is promoting heresy. It was also the second week anniversary of the Great Sign, as found in the constellations, on September the 23rd, which has been a very popular topic here on YouTube, but I hear very little comment about it lately. And that's because I believe it does have to do with this publication in which these 62 Catholic Bible scholars professed that Pope Francis is promoting heresy. Now, I said on that date that President Donald Trump would become a Catholic. I believe that is also related. And a lot of people have said that did not happen, but I say, how do you know it did not happen? And for that matter, I want to show you this interesting photograph this week. And notice that Donald Trump is shown with a nun. And the headline is, Pro-Life Leaders Praise President Trump for Lifting Obama Contraception Mandate. And you must admit, you would never ever see President Obama with a Catholic nun. So maybe Donald Trump has converted. In fact, if he has, I think it would be better for him not to tell people, not to make it public, because then he would be accused of imposing his morality on everyone else. And this way, by being a professing Presbyterian, nobody is going to mention that. So he can do what a Catholic president would do. And maybe that's all we should hope for at this stage. Now, I said in my last program that these 62 Catholic Bible scholars were going to be attacked as per Micah chapter 5, verse number 1. And let me read that for you. And here's what Micah wrote. Now will you be laid waste, O daughter of the robber. And the daughter of the robber is represented by these 62 Catholic Bible scholars, which by the way are now over 200. They have laid siege against us. In other words, they will be attacked. With a rod shall they strike the cheek of the judge of Israel. And I believe that refers to their eventual martyrdom of Pope Benedict. And I want to read to you excerpts from an article published in the National Catholic Register by a Father Raymond J. D'Souza. He's also the editor-in-chief of Convivium magazine. And notice in this criticism of these 62 Catholic Bible scholars, he never once addresses the issue. Is Pope Francis promoting heresy? All he does instead is call them names. And if you've ever been in a debate, you know that the loser in a debate, when he loses, always resorts to personal attacks or ad hominem attacks. That's because he has no facts. And Father D'Souza has no facts either. So let me read parts of what he said here. Of filial collections and divisive rhetoric. That's his headline. Commentary momentarily winning the day has characterized Catholic infighting in 2017. Well, this is more than momentarily winning the day. What these 62 Bible scholars have started is the stone cut out from the mountain. And eventually, they are going to subdue the one world government and the one world religion, which is headed up by the false prophet, Pope Francis. And this article continues. The filial correction accusing Pope Francis of propagating heresy, published last month by a number of Catholic scholars, well, not just any number, there were 62 Bible scholars, and as I pointed out, 6 plus 2 equals 8. 8 is the number in Bible prophecy of new beginnings, and that's what they were accomplishing, a new beginning for the Catholic Church. And when President Trump converts, if he hasn't already, it will be to this new remnant Catholic Church. It will not be to the Roman Catholic Church. That nun that you saw with President Trump, that was a traditional nun. That was not a mini-skirted nun, as can be found in many places, unfortunately. By a number of Catholic scholars and priests is both a great surprise and a new normal. What do you mean by that, Father D'Souza? It's a great surprise because most of the names on the list would have never imagined that they would ever be so bold as to publicly correct the Pope, something that by their own reckoning has not been done since the 14th century. And I agree, most Catholics would never correct the Pope. We have been taught loyalty to the Pope. The question is Francis a Pope? In Daniel, he says in chapter 10, verse number 3, I ate no desirable bread, and neither flesh nor wine entered into my mouth. That refers to the taking away of the Eucharist. That's why the Roman Catholic Church is called a robber by Micah. Neither was I anointed with oil. That means that Pope Francis is not a legitimate pope. I think that will come out eventually. And Father D'Souza continues in his attack piece. But perhaps it's also a new normal, because 2017 has been a year in which the Catholic world has witnessed a ratcheting up of the rhetoric. Well, this is not rhetoric. It's either true or it's false. Does Pope Francis promote heresy? That's the issue you have to address, Father D'Souza. You can't just be calling people names. You have to search for the truth, or do you know the truth and you don't want to admit it? If not mitigated, will fray communion in the church. That's already been done by Pope Francis. It began early in the year and reached a crescendo this autumn. If it does not abate, enduring damage will be done. This division in the church has been started by Pope Francis. The bishops in Germany and the bishops in Poland completely interpret his apostolic exhortation, Amoris Laetitia. They interpret it completely differently. In Poland, the bishops say that people living in mortal sin may not receive Holy Communion. In Germany, and especially in Malta, the bishops say that anyone and everyone may receive Holy Communion. Doesn't matter if you're shacking up with someone tonight, and someone different tomorrow, and someone different the next night. You can still receive communion. There's basically no fornication or adultery in the Catholic Church anymore, or at least it's not a mortal sin. I guarantee you, Henry VIII would never have been excommunicated by this Pope, Pope Francis. Anyway, this article continues, this hit piece, I should say. There is the filial correction with its provocative, even rash language, name-calling, accusing the Holy Father of propagating heresies. And you need to address this, Father D'Souza. Is Francis promoting heresy? Instead of limiting itself to raising the questions that, for example, the 4 cardinals did in their respectful submission of the dubia. Well, Pope Francis is not going to respond to those 4 cardinals. He's not going to respond to these 62 Catholic Bible scholars. He likes division. He likes obscurity. He does not want, he's of Satan. There is no obscurity as far as God goes. God is not the author of confusion. Pope Francis is the author of confusion. The filial correction stops short of accusing the Holy Father of being a formal heretic, but charging someone with propagating heresies without being a formal heretic constitutes an implied insult too. Well, that's true. Either the Holy Father is too clueless to know what he is doing. Oh no, he knows what he's doing. Or too knavish to do it openly. Yeah, well, I would say that Francis is too knavish to do it openly. He convened 2 synods of the bishops, and they would not say that people living in mortal sin could receive Holy Communion. In fact, Francis was very upset. He chastised the bishops after those 2 synods. He said that they were not showing mercy. So Francis had to do it himself with his apostolic exhortation, Amoris Laetitia. But he didn't do it openly. He hid it in his footnote 351. Please note that number 351. That is the backwards expression of the rosary number 153, as I have pointed out before many times on this program. And this article by Father de Souza continues, all of this is highly regrettable. An environment in which the rhetoric of the church is increasingly reckless, deliberately rude, and seemingly designed to foster rancor rather than any reconciliation. Well, that is an awful lot of nasty invective, if you ask me, Father de Souza. I challenge you and all of you critics of these 62 Catholic Bible scholars, see if you can't find any reason to support the heresy promoted by Pope Francis. And you can't, and you will always sink into the mud. You will always resort to name-calling because the truth does not reside in you. Almighty God verified what these 62 Bible scholars are doing. He verified it with a great sign on September the 23rd. And people may not understand that right away, but that's my job. My job is to point out what is happening. And by the way, I want to add a new ending to my videos at this point in time. I am starting a new project. I want to publish a book which will be a compilation of all of my videos, and I need some seed money. So if you feel generous today, please click on the PayPal button, and you can either go to my thirdeaglemedia.com website, or you can go to my channel here on YouTube.